Okay, so we're going to learn the Sikha now from Tafshin Nun, 5750, 1989, Chanukah. And in the earlier part of the Sikha, we're skipping to Ois Hey. In the earlier part of the Sikha, the Rebbe was speaking about the importance of the Nes Chanukah being the oil that was added and the oil that increased miraculously from day to day, that the oil itself was natural oil that increased. Because if it's not natural oil, then there's a problem about using something that's a miracle for a mitzvah, like the story of the Alter Rebbe, with he didn't want to make Kiddush Levana when the ship miraculously stopped while crossing the river over there on the way to or from his prison. So therefore, it had to be done in a way that was a natural way. And the same, in a similar vein, also the beginning of the Nes, the Rebbe says that the finding of the cruse of oil in the ground was also essentially a natural thing, even though it was, why was it even hidden over there, and why was the Kohen Gadol seal on it? So there was a lot of behind the scenes going on, but in a simple sense, it was natural. So this idea that the Nes Chanukah has to do with the natural world that Rebbe is going to explain is part of the preparation for the Geulah Asidah, the future redemption, where the whole idea is that the natural world, as it is a natural world, with all its limitations, should be filled with the knowledge of Hashem and should have godliness permeate it. So let's begin. Ois Hey, where over there he just says in general about the natural world, and then later he's going to talk about Moshiach's times. Top of the second column, we're starting. We could say Shebenes Hashem in the Chanukah, in the miracle of the oil of Chanukah, Mudgish in Kloli ve'ikri, Benegel leklolas kiyum ha'Torah mitzvah. It's emphasized a general thing and a primary and core important thing concerning the general idea of Torah and its mitzvahs. Neir mitzvah v'Torah, as we know in general, the mitzvahs and Torah is likened to a candle and a fire and so on. Shakadosh Baruch Hu oiseh sheteva olam yeh ba'ofen haroyu muchshel l'kiyum ha'Torah mitzvahs. Hashem makes it that the nature of the world is a place that should be ready and prepared for the fulfillment of Torah mitzvahs. The explanation this is, Ksiv, it says in the pasuk, if you will go in my chukim and you will observe my mitzvahs, you will do them, and I will give you your rains in its time, and the earth will give forth its produce. All the brachas that are related in Parshas B'chukoisai. Now, the question that's always asked is, why are we promising such seemingly mundane things like physical blessings, rains, and so on for such a high spiritual thing like mitzvahs? So the Rambam explains it's not about a reward. The reward from the mitzvahs is of a totally different level. But all of these things are all about the physical promises are means that enable us to do the mitzvahs. They're not a reward. They are making us be able to do more mitzvahs. The Rambam explains the content and meaning behind the physical promises of material good in the Torah. That the Torah promised us that he will remove from him all matters that could be an obstacle from doing the Torah mitzvahs. And he will give us all the good that support us to be able to perform the Torah. For example, that there won't be hunger, there'll be peace, there'll be lots of silver and gold. Why? Not because that's a reward for Torah mitzvahs, but that enables us to do more Torah mitzvahs. So we should be free to be able to study the wisdom of Torah and to perform the mitzvah. This means What is the message behind that? The nature of the world becomes such that it assists Yidden to do Torah mitzvahs. And this is going to be the point that the Sikha is going to point out, that this is leading towards Moshiach, that's what Mashiach's times is going to be like. That the very nature of the world will be not chas v'sholom something that disturbs the fulfillment of mitzvahs, but it helps it. And especially Shateva, all of course, that nature itself is godliness, ki yedu, as it's known, she'elikim. Echad mishiv v'shem shal kodesh baruch hu she'en nimchakim, b'gematria Hateva, as it's known, that Elikim, one of the 7 names of Hashem that cannot be erased, is the numerical equivalent of nature, which means that essentially nature is godly, and therefore nature should assist a Yid in doing Torah mitzvahs. V'chidush b'davar, and so if that's what the nature of the world is, so what's the novelty of it? Even when the state of the world is in a state of concealment and covering. For example, in the time before the miracle of Chanukah, like the Rambam describes it, when the wicked kingdom of Greece stood against your nation Yisrael to make them forget your Torah and to remove them from the laws of your will, to such a degree that they overpowered the Yidden. The Greeks entered the Beis Hamikdash, and they caused impurity to rest upon all the oils that were in the Beis Hamikdash. Hainu, this means, top of the next page, who the state of the world at that time, prior to the miracle of Chanukah, was in opposition to the fulfillment of Torah mitzvahs. V'af became still in all. Not only did the kingdom of the house of Chashmonai overpower them and they were victorious, that the opponent, which means the Greeks over here, were nullified. El Yiseidim is even more so. Nature itself became in such a manner that's appropriate for and ready for the fulfillment of Torah mitzvahs. Like it's emphasized in the miracle of the oil, that was in a natural way, like we mentioned before. And the footnote, the Rebbe goes through all these things about that the sun goes down and Hashem shall illuminate my darkness. All this about the darkness and the world and the outside that you place it in, all becomes elevated into holiness. Hein benegel and Metzias Pach Hashem, and both concerning it was a natural way of finding the cruse of oil. Shall pitava nishar migdash temen toir, that Shem and Toir, that by nature it remained in the Beis Hamikdash one cruse of pure holy oil. Also concerning the kindling for 8 days, that it was added in the oil, natural olive oil came to it. As the Rebbe explained earlier in the Sikha, it's also in the Sikha L'Kutei Sichos, the Rebbe speaks about this. In addition to the idea that the world itself became transformed in a natural way, instead of the world itself being in opposition to Torah mitzvahs, as prior to the Nes of Chanukah. Additional to this, this is not only concerning necessary things that's necessary to fulfill the Torah mitzvahs, that without them you wouldn't be able to fulfill the mitzvah. Elagam benegel lehidur mitzvah, also concerning being extra careful in the mitzvah, top of the second column. Nes Hashem she'adliku b'shem and Torah, the miracle of the oil that they should kindle in pure oil. It wasn't for the sake of the mitzvah itself, it was for the sake of beautifying the mitzvah. Because as the Rebbe mentioned earlier in the Sikha, according to halacha, that if there is no shemen, there's no pure oil, you could use non-pure oil. There's an expression in the Chazal, hutra tumba betzibur. If the entire congregation is tamei, or the entire aspect of whatever has to be used is tamei, then you can use tamei oil. So in other words, according to halacha itself, if you had asked a rabbi, you would have said, go ahead, use the Talmudic oil, no problem. So the Hashem showed this great love for the Jewish people, like the Mefarshim explained, and that he even changed the nature of the world, that the nature of the world should assist the Yidden so that they should be able to do a Hidur mitzvah, not just a mitzvah. They should be able to do the Hidur mitzvah. The Rebbe goes on to say in second paragraph, second column, this is also in the state and situation of the beginning of the Avodah. That's the idea of Chanukah from the word chinuch. Chinuch means when you're first dedicating something, when you're first starting off. The fact that the world is willing and able to be transformed to help us, maybe that needs to have a level further in our Avodah. Not at the time of chinuch, not at the time of the dedication, not at the time of the beginning. For example, Chanukah Mizbeach Bezman Mishkan, an example of chinuch is the dedication of the Mizbeach in the times of the Mishkan. That was only the beginning of the Avodah. Similar to this in the dedication of the Mizbeach in the times of the Chashmonoim, because they used it for idolatry and they had to rededicate the Mizbeach, rebuild the Mizbeach, and so on. We don't say, they're just beginning, they're starting their chinuch. You could fulfill the mitzvah according to halacha. And only when they become more mature, then we'll add extra care in the mitzvah, extra beauty in the mitzvah. The miracle of Chanukah was in such a way that the nature of the world is worthy and ready and prepared for fulfilling the mitzvah, and not just fulfilling the mitzvah, but fulfilling the mitzvah in the way of Hidur mitzvah. From this we derive the general idea of fulfillment of Torah mitzvahs in the time of Geulah. Also in the difficult times of the darkness of Geulah, till the double and quadruple darkness of the end of Geulah. I'm sorry, the heels of Moshiach. When the darkness covers the earth, and a very strong darkness covers the nations. Hashem gives each and every Yid the capability and the possibility to fulfill the ideas of Torah mitzvahs that he's obligated in them. Including also taking extra care in the mitzvah until doing above and beyond Hidur of the Hidur, like the Rebbe explains, that lighting every single day and every single meal and increasing, that's the idea of Mahadir Min HaMahadir. Even when it's the beginning of the Avodah. In other words, everybody does Mahadir Min HaMahadir. We don't say, okay, kids will only light one candle a whole Chanukah. No. Even children are doing chinuch. No, they do in the way of Mahadir Min HaMahadir, and every day they increase. In such a manner that the nature of the world assists every single Yid in his avoid and fulfillment of Torah mitzvahs. Or pashtus, and simply put, Hashem gives every single Yid everything necessary for them. Children, life, and sustenance in a comfortable way, and all these are comfortable. His life is in a comfortable way, comfortable health. His children are comfortable, not just he's yotzi, he has a son and daughter to fulfill the mitzvah. So that the person, why is he given all this comfort? Like we quoted before from the Rambam, because this is to enable the person to fulfill mitzvahs out of a calm soul and a calm body. Yeah, now the Rebbe is going to bring in this idea how it connects with the Geulah. Oizvav, bottom of the page. We could add that in what we said before, that in the miracle of the oil of Chanukah is emphasized, that the nature of the world becomes ready and worthy and a preparatory place for the fulfillment of mitzvahs. In this is also included the empowerment for the fulfillment of Torah mitzvahs in the ultimate perfect way, in the true and complete redemption. Ubagdam. Let's first preface another thing before the Rebbe goes on to explain it. Top of the next page. Seemingly, we could ask when we said before, seemingly we could ask on everything we said before about the world being ready and able and assisting us. There's many mitzvahs, and the most of the positive commandments, there's 248 positive commandments. Of the 248 positive commandments, only 87 can be done at present. That we're in Geulah, and we're outside of our befrat b'chutz la'aretz, especially in chutz la'aretz. So therefore, how do we say that the world is assisting us and is ready and so on? V'abir b'zed explanation. This is afal pi. Though the general idea of exile is against the nature of the world. How come? The whole world was created for the sake of Torah, the sake of Yidden, which means both of them together. So Yidden should be able to fulfill all the 630 mitzvahs of Torah. So therefore, the nature of the world is Yidden should do Torah mitzvahs. Geulah is going against the nature of the world. It's amazing. Usually we talk about Geulah against the nature of Yidden, Geulah against Torah, Geulah against Hashem. But here he's saying it's against the natural makeup of the world. Hachel misibas hagolus, beginning even with the cause of the Geulah, it's the opposite of the nature of the world. Because of our sins, we were exiled from our land, which sins are unnatural. It goes against the nature of a Yid. As the Rambam says, every Yid wants to be part of Klal Yisrael, to do all the mitzvahs and to distance themselves from Averis. And this will becomes revealed and affects on the way he acts in actuality. Still in all, since temporarily the nature of the Yidden took a turn and they didn't fulfill their true natural tendency to do what Hashem wants them to do, and therefore automatically the result, the effect of this was that it influenced that the nature of the world did not keep up to what it's supposed to be. Because of the nature in the present. For the entire duration of exile, the fulfillment of mitzvahs that are dependent on Eretz Yisrael and the Beis HaMikdash in actuality. So therefore it's sufficient that we are fulfilling all those mitzvahs that we cannot actually fulfill. We do it in such a way that our oxen that we were supposed to bring on the Mizbeach become fulfilled and done with our lips instead. Then the mitzvah of the Karbanis is done with the appropriate perfection that it's possible to do at that time, that since now we cannot bring an actual carbon, so the most perfect way of doing that mitzvah is through learning the laws of the Karbanis or reciting the Karbanis by davening, etc., etc. So the Rebbe is going to say, even though we have all the mitzvahs, at least in the way that we could do it now in Geulah through reciting, let's say, the Karbanis without actually fulfilling the Karbanis, the miracle of the oil is more of an indication of the world being prepared for Moshiach than even what we were speaking about, our words and our mouths taking the place of the Karbanis. So he says in the bottom of the first column, we could say Shabbanes Hashem the Chanukah, and the miracle of the oil of Chanukah. There's an additional uniqueness and novelty, Nesinas Koyach Miyuchedes, a special empowerment. Sheteva Oilam Yiroi Lashlemis the Geulah Asida. The nature of the world will be worthy for the perfection of the future redemption. How is that? So he says, "Tam hasmichas the parshas hamanoida la parsha nasim." The reason why it says in the Chumash, it says the parsha of the karbonos that the Nesiim brought as a dedication for the Mishkan, which is throughout the end of Parshas Nosai. Then immediately after we finish Parshas Nosai, we begin Parshas Baal Loischa, which talks about the Parshas HaMenorah. So what's the connection between the two of them? Let's skip the parentheses. Mefarish Rashi explains, Lefik Shara Aaron Chanukah Nesiim, when the Aaron HaKohen saw how the leaders of all the Shvatim had the opportunity to dedicate the Mishkan and the Mizbeach, but he wasn't one of those 12. He felt bad when he and his Shevet did not participate in the dedication of the Mizbeach, which is really shocking if you think about it. Who is the one that's using the Mizbeach? Who is the one that's doing the avoid in the Mishkan? It's Shevet Levi, it's the Kohanim and the Leviim. How and who do we say are the ones that dedicated the Mizbeach? It was all the other 12 Shvatim. So obviously this made him feel very bad. Hashem told him, I swear, yours is greater than what the Nesiim did. You are the one that kindles and prepares the candle, the candles of the menorah. The advantage of the kindling of the menorah over the karbonos of the leaders of the Shvatim, that we say that yours is greater than theirs. Isra Medrash, the Medrash brings down HaKarbonos calls Mash Beis HaMikdash Kayim Him Noegim. The karbonos only exist when the Beis HaMikdash stands. But the candles forever are going to shine towards the face of the menorah. They're never ceasing. So there's the famous question of Maksha Ramban. The Ramban asked the question, Dover Yedua, it's a well-known thing. Kishayin Beis HaMikdash Kayim, when the Beis HaMikdash doesn't exist. V'akarbonos betelim, the karbonos cease because of its destruction. Afaneris betelis, also the candle cease. So therefore, what does it mean that, the karbonos, they're going to stop, but your stuff, Aaron, lighting the menorah, that's going to remain. What kind of menorah? What kind of menorah? There's no menorah when the Beis HaMikdash is destroyed, just like there's no karbonos when the Beis HaMikdash is destroyed. Umetaretz, and the Ramban answers, Loi Ramzval, the Neiru Shal Chanukahs, Chashmenoi, Shinaheges, Avlacher, Churm, Begoloseinu. This hint was only for the candles of the Chanukah of the Chashmenoim, that it is in practice even after the destruction in our exile. So what does that mean? That the menorah, the Chanukah menorah, is more part of the world because it exists even during the exile than the karbonos that was only there through the lip service, through the actual just saying the karbonos with our mouth, but we can actually bring physical karbonos. Yeshleimer, we could say, Yesh Maila v'Yisrid. Ba'ashayches the Neiros Chanukah Neiros HaMikdash. There's an advantage and a greater thing in the connection of the Neiros Chanukah to the Neiros of the Beis HaMikdash. The Gabashayches the Mishal forms Sasein Lakrovus Karbonos Hasim b'Mishkan. Then the connection between how our mouths take the place of the oxen versus the in comparison to the actual karbonos that were brought. Skip the parentheses. What's talking the reason that the Neiros Chanukah have a greater connection with the Neiros of the Beis HaMikdash than our reciting of the karbonos to the actual bringing of the karbonos? Kivin the Neiros Chanukah in the Medes Hashlemus that looks on Neiros Beis HaMikdash Geulah Hasidah, since the kindling of the Neiros Chanukah is hinted, the Beis HaMikdash kindling of the menorah in the future time when Moshiach comes. As we noted, the number 8 candles, the number 8 has to do with the future redemption. Skip the parentheses. Then the kindling of the menorah will be in an everlasting manner. They will never cease. According to this, we could say, the miracle of the oil of Chanukah, and the Chlelas Gam and Asinas Koyach, Sheteva Oilam Yeroi, La Shleimus the Geulah Sidam, that the nature of the world will be worthy to the perfection of the future redemption. Since the miracle of the oil is that they found one cruse of oil. And they lit from it 8 days, the number 8, which shows beyond the natural number of 7 days of the creation. From the perspective of the nature of the world, skip the parentheses, there was a possibility for kindling the menorah for a duration of 8 days. Therefore, they established the Yom Tov for 8 days. And they should kindle it in 8 candles. In this, it's hinted that the nature of the world becomes one, that it's worthy for the perfection of the future time. Similar to the number 8, that guards the cycle, which means it's beyond the cycle of 7. Beyond the cycle of 7, binyan, the 7 days of the creation, Tava Oilam, beyond the nature of the world, and even though it's beyond the nature of the world, the number 8 will be Yachim Zeyesh Loshayches Aleim Sharim Shomer Hekif, still and all has a connection with the nature of the world, because it like guards and observe and preserves the cycle of the world. And the Rebbe says in footnote 62, a different way of putting it is that initially the number 8 was beyond the nature of the world, but through going through what we went through in exile, we created a new reality that even the world is connected with the number 8 as it will manifest itself with the future redemption. Okay, 2 paragraphs in the bottom of the first column. We could say, that this miracle of the oil of Chanukah includes also the effect in the nature of the world that should be worthy for the future redemption. Nas befratai, the avodah dafot becomes specifically through the avodah of spreading out the well springs, pnimius ha-Torah, the inner part of the Torah, which is known as Bechinas Hashem Torah, the inner part of Torah is the oil of Torah. Chutza, that goes outward. Avodah shechiyuva bezman hazeh, an avodah that's obligatory nowadays. Ubiyachdim zeh, along with the fact that it's obligatory now already, kshura b'miyuchad mashleimus the Geulah Sidra, it's uniquely connected with the perfection, the completion of the future redemption. Spreading the well springs outward is from the matters of avodah that's connected to these days. Like the Arizal wrote, these final generations, top of the next second column, mutter mitzvah legal, it's permitted, and it's a mitzvah to reveal this wisdom of the inner part of the Torah. After, how much more so after the revelation of the teachings of Chassidus through the Baal Shem Tov and the Mezritcher Magid, va'adlis Gals Teres Chassidus Chabad, the Rabbeinu Hazokin, and until the revelation of the teachings of Chassidus Chabad through the Alter Rebbe, befrat lachre agul Yutes Kislev, especially the revelation of the Alter Rebbe's teaching after the redemption of the 19th of Kislev, and then going on, Rabbi Seinu Sienu Malam Mekoimim, and also our Rabbeim that took their place. Until my father-in-law, the leader of our generation, Shehichriz, that he proclaimed that the avoid of spreading the well springs outward is the unique mitzvah, that time that's connected with this time. It's the message of the day in this generation. Along with the fact that it has to do with this time of Geulah, it's connected, the avoid of spreading the well springs outward with the perfection of future redemption. As it's known, through spreading the well springs outward will come the master, that's King Moshiach. What's the reason for it? Why does our spreading Pnimius HaTorah and the well springs of Chassidus now enable or bring about the coming of Moshiach, because as it's known, the reason for this is it's the beginning, and similar to the perfect revelation, the Pnimis HaTorah, the Moshiach Tzidkenu, of the inner part of the Torah through Mashiach. This matter is emphasized even more, the empowerment of the miracle of oil at Chanukah. Mitzvah lanichal pesach beitzim mechutz, the mitzvah is to place it on the entrance of his household from outside. Hainu shashem shabbat, it means that the oil of the Torah, pnimis haTorah, the inner part of the Torah. Meir gam bechutz, shines also outside. Ad the kal yeriglo tamardoi, till the legs of those that rebel will cease. Shepoil b'chutz sheichutz v'manu, effects in the outside, that there's nothing more outside than it. Sheteva oilom ba'ifn ha'roi la'avoid ha'fatz ha'mereos chutz, the nature of the world in a matter that's appropriate for the avoid of spreading the well springs outward. Hein mitzad achiv lask ba'avoid zubazman hazeh, both from the perspective of the obligation to be involved in this avoida in these days. Skip the parentheses. V'hein mitzad ha'chonol shleimus the Geulah asida, and also because the preparation to have the completion, perfection of future redemption. Shari b'Chanukah nechlalos gaman sinas koyach la shleimus the Geulah asida, because in Chanukah is also included the perfection and the completion that will take place in the future redemption. So now we're going to skip over to the end bracha. Ois Yud Beis, first column. 2 paragraphs in the bottom. He says, "Vihi rotzen should be the will of Hashem v'hu ha'ikar," and this is what's primary. Speaking and resolving, making good resolutions, and all of the above. Yimaru v'yizarzu yaviu, take from Yad as a Geulah mitzvah shlema de Moshiach Tzidkenu, the true and complete redemption they will bring about through Mashiach. Ubepashtus, and simply put, Shabbos ze'atzmai, in this very Shabbos, zoichim liris Chanukah Mizbeach, we merit to see the dedication of the Mizbeach. Umara ba'atzboi v'aimer zois Chanukah Mizbeach. Whenever it says zeh or zois, it means you could point with your finger like zeh keli. So zois Chanukah Mizbeach means this is a dedication of the Mizbeach. This is something we can point at. The Beis HaMikdash Shlishi, in the third Beis HaMikdash, Mikdash Adonai Koinu Yedecha, the Mikdash of Hashem, your hands Hashem prepared, Koil, including also Chinuch HaMenorah, the dedication of the Menorah. Let's skip over to the top of the next column. Aidei Aaron HaKoyin, through Aaron the Koyin, Sheyadlik HaMenorah Shel Moshe, he will kindle the Menorah that Moshe built, that Moshe made, because in the first moment of Geulah, Moshe and Aaron will be with them, even though Tchias HaMesim may take place later, but Tzadikim, it says, will arise immediately as soon as the Geulah starts. Along with the actions of Moshe, which are everlasting, because Moshe Rabbeinu's Menorah, just like everything else Moshe Rabbeinu did, was never went in captivity, was never destroyed. Therefore, they become revealed perfectly in the future redemption. So Aaron HaKoyin, who will rise up together with Moshe, will kindle the Menorah that Moshe Rabbeinu made in the Midbar. Like it's emphasized in the parsha of the Shavuot miketz, that hints at all the that all matters of the end, all the matters of end of times, which means the Mashiach's times, hint in the words end of days and the end of the right. In other words, the right side is revealed. Immediately we come to what the parsha we read Mincha last Shabbos, yesterday. Vayigash el of Yehuda approached him. Hagosher v'achibur Yehuda leYosef, the approach and the joining of Yehuda and Yosef. Shoroim zakash baruch b'nei Yisrael. This approaching and joining of Yehuda and Yosef hints spiritually at the joining of Hashem and the Bnei Yisrael, because Yehuda, if you take the letter Daled out of the word Yehuda, that's Hashem's Yud-Kei Vav-Kei, and Yosef it says that the whole Klal Yisrael is called by the name Yosef. Anyway, in such a way that one with one will join, will meet, and no space will be between them. That's how strong the unity will be between Hashem and the Yidden. And that day Hashem will be one and His name will be one. We could say that His name is also going on the Yidden, because it says that that in the future tzaddikim, which all your nation of tzaddikim will be called by Hashem's name. So it says Hashem is one and His name is one. That's a different way of saying Hashem and the Yidden will be one. Yisrael, that Yidden and Hashem are entirely one.